Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are going to be doing a demo on load balancing with Google Cloud. Everything we are going to be doing is actually going to be within Cloud Shell, so nothing too crazy here. We will take a look at the load balancing site. If you're coming from Google Cloud from a couple of years ago, and that's about the last time that I did a demo like this, it was completely different. So before, what we might have done would have been to create a bunch of virtual machines, tag them in particular regions, and then basically set up a load balancing service between them, and then you would have something like a worldwide load balanced type of website. Here we're just going to take advantage of instance templates. We are going to take advantage of a load balancing service that we now have. And yeah, should be pretty straightforward. The way this is going to work is that I've got um, a web page that I'm going to have off screen here, and I'll put in the comments. This is basically just the how-to guide from Google on setting up a load balancer. So this is a common enough use case that there's not even a code web. If you want to do the code web, it's a separate thing. I'm not going to go through that with you all here. Basically, it's taking that React microservice type application and setting that up as a load balance thing. I like this one a little bit better because it gives us a bit of experience with Cloud Shell, with compute engine instance templates and all that kind of fun stuff. And honestly, this one, it's mostly just copying and pasting gcloud commands into the Cloud Shell. So, and I'm just realizing now that you didn't see anything that I was kind of dragging off on and off screen there. It looks kind of like this here. So we have basically just a bunch of straight up shell commands to run to get this going. It's really not that tricky. We will look at the web pages that support them. So we are going to go ahead and get started with that. Now, first things first, I'm going to create a new project for this. And if you haven't, okay. Oh, I'm in the wrong project. Let's select this guy. I was having some billing issues outside of what we're doing. If you've gotten to this point in class and you're noticing that you're having a lot of credit hits, I would almost start recommending doing a new project for every demo that we have going on and then just deleting it when you're done. Um, and the reason I say that is I did a demo for you last night on Cloud Spanner. I woke up this morning and $50 of credits had just been burned through overnight. And now this is the third time that has happened to me. I've done a demo, forgot to disable something, and then just drains your account. So probably going to be best from here on out. I'll try to mention this earlier on, but just create a new project and delete it when you're done because it's very easy to burn through credits in a cloud environment without realizing it. So I've got a fresh project here, and I'm going to provision my Cloud Shell, and then I'm basically going to let's make this a little bit smaller since we've got a lot of text to kind of parse through here. Um, so first things first, we're going to create a instance template, and I'm actually going to bring this over here so we can see the commands because this is going to look like garbage in the terminal basically. But what we're doing is we're calling the gcloud command. Again, that's our pretty much everything we're using in Cloud Shell starts with gcloud. We're going to use a compute engine. We're going to do something with instance templates, which is basically just a way of making a templating system for compute engine instances. This is going to allow us to very easily spin up new virtual machines if we need them. And then it gives you a option for what image you're using, what startup script you might want to kick off when this thing loads, what network, what region, subnets, health checks, all of this kind of basic stuff. Health checks we'll talk about in a bit. That's making sure that your server is responsive and that it's up and running. Kind of useful in a load balancing system. But the interesting thing, at least for me as a former sysadmin professor, and who knows, maybe again in the future if it opens up, is that we have some Linux commands just kind of pre-baked here. We're not necessarily passing it a script file. We're just rolling it right into our command line option, which I kind of personally like. From one perspective, it makes life really easy. So basically, run apt update, install Apache, install SSL, set our basic information. And what we're doing here in kind of the bottom lines is that we are just creating a default a default index.html page for our Apache servers, then restart Apache. So all this thing is doing is creating basically a hello world website to visit. You probably have something way more complicated if you were going to do this, obviously, right? But let's go ahead and drop this right into our Cloud Shell. So again, I guess it's not too bad to kind of read through here, but we're going to authorize that. It is not enabled. I forgot to enable that. Always a good reminder. Anytime you create a new project, all of your APIs need to be re-enabled. So this might take a second. And while we're waiting on that, we can talk about the next command as well. So what we're going to be doing after this is that we're going to create a managed instance group. So this is basically going to manage all of these template instances that we are spawning from templates. So we'll have that, and it'll just kind of show up as an object for us in the Cloud Console. After that, we're going to set the ports that this particular load balancer will be using. So our backend example, we're going to use port 80, should make sense. After that, we're going to allow traffic through our firewall. Again, we need to make sure that port 80 is open, otherwise nobody can access our website. If you were serving from a different port, you would change it to whatever port you need, but this is basically going to allow traffic, and it's also going to allow our health checker to keep an eye on our servers as well. We also will set up a external IP address, a static external IP address, so that if we reboot this thing, it's not going to change because the DHCP server reassigned us a rule. My understanding, at least as of current times, if you reserve a static IP address, there is no cost as long as the server is up and running. If your server is down, I'm pretty sure you get charged for it. This was different a while back. Static IPs were cost you something regardless. Now it's free. I don't know what it will be in 3 months from now. Just something to be aware of as a cloud administrator / application developer, which is what you all at least are in this class. Okay, so our compute engine was enabled. We have also created our backend template, our instance template for our backend here. We see our basic information, no errors occurred, finished successfully. Good, good, good. All right, now we'll create that managed instance group. So we see size equals 2. That means we're going to create or have 2 VMs be available for us. And you also see the zone. Modify that for your needs as well. Again, remember that we can look up which zones are available. Being in the Midwest, US East works just fine for us here. So that will go ahead and run. And once that is done, we will do our port setting. Okay, so that finished successfully. Add our port. Again, make sure that we have the correct zone. Ports will set fine. Then we'll go on to that firewall rule. And there is kind of a reason why I'm not spending hours and hours going through this particular command. As long as you are aware of the parameters, it's pretty easy to, I think, understand these types of commands, and these will change over time depending on how your cloud provider, Google, Microsoft, AWS, whatever you're using, there's a good chance these commands will change over time. So my take on this is to be aware of what command you need to run, perhaps to look up the parameters as they currently are, and then basically get your setup up and running. And the reason why I kind of say this, and I'm not trying to like wave it off as easy, because I know if you're not a system administrator, this probably looks like a bunch of gobbledygook. But if you look at some of the older code labs, the exact same command is different. And it might not be this one, some of the other ones too, but parameters will change, the applications running under the hood here will change, and you just kind of have to keep up on what the current correct strategy is. For right now, it is this one. It may change. So we have our firewall being created, and we're going to allow port 80. Life is good there. We're going to do our external address reservation. And everything I talked about before while we were waiting for it to provision. Last but not least, we are going to get the address here. So what this step is doing is to basically figure out which external IP we have reserved. There is a chance that you might need to run this once or twice depending on if it's already been provisioned. Last time I did it, it was pretty quick. Okay, so we have a 34 dot number. I'm going to go ahead and save this, put it over here. This shouldn't resolve to anything because the website's not up and running yet, which is fine. But I want to keep an eye on that address.